Jacob was the son of Isaac and the grandson of Abraham, a man whose family had already carried promises and dreams through generations. Even as a boy, Jacob was a quiet thinker, observant, and full of curiosity about the world and the path God had set for him. He had a strong mind, a sharp heart, and a keen awareness of life's complexities. But Jacob's path was not simple. From his earliest days, family dynamics shaped him in ways both beautiful and painful. He had a twin brother, Esau, a man of the outdoors, strong and bold, who loved hunting and adventure. Jacob, on the other hand, was more reserved, content with the calm of home, the warmth of hearth and family. Yet, despite their differences, there was tension, a quiet rivalry that simmered beneath the surface. It wasn't born of malice, but of contrast, one a wild spirit, the other a contemplative mind. One day, this tension came to a defining moment. Esau returned from the fields exhausted and famished, craving a simple bowl of stew Jacob had prepared. With a cunning that was part youthful impulsiveness, part cleverness, Jacob offered the stew in exchange for Esau's birthright, the privileges and promises reserved for the firstborn. Esau, thinking only of his immediate hunger, agreed. This moment marked a turning point, setting Jacob on a path that would forever change his life. Jacob's journey was not merely about cleverness or ambition. It was about vision, purpose, and destiny. He carried within him the dreams of his forefathers, the promise of God's plan, and a restless longing for meaning. Yet, even as he navigated these ambitions, Jacob faced challenges that tested his integrity and his heart. Marriage, family, and the complexities of love were part of this journey. Jacob loved Rachel, and his devotion was genuine and deep. But life, as it often does, mixed joy with hardship. He was tricked into marrying Leah first, the sister of Rachel, through the deception of her father, Laban. The years that followed were filled with toil, labor, and the heartache of longing for the woman he truly loved. Through it all, Jacob's character was shaped, his patience, resilience, and faith deepened. It was during these years that Jacob's relationship with God grew stronger. He wrestled, not just with men, but with life itself, with fear, doubt, and uncertainty. One night, in a moment of solitude, he wrestled with a mysterious figure until dawn. When the struggle ended, he was given a new name, Israel, and a blessing that would follow him and his descendants forever. This encounter marked a spiritual turning point, teaching Jacob that life struggles are not just obstacles. They are transformative experiences, shaping the soul and preparing it for what lies ahead. Through all these experiences, Jacob's heart remained tender and deeply human. He worried for his children, hoped for their futures, and carried the weight of his family's legacy with both pride and concern. It is this humanity, this mixture of strength and vulnerability, that made him the father Joseph would look up to, the man whose lessons and love would guide the next generation. Jacob's life teaches us that our beginnings do not define us, that our struggles can become our strength, and that faith, quiet, persistent faith, can carry us through the most challenging seasons. Even in moments of confusion, even in the times when the path seems unclear, Jacob's story reminds us that purpose is unfolding, even when we cannot yet see it. As we reflect on Jacob's early life, we notice the seeds of his enduring legacy: wisdom gained through hardship, love tempered by patience, and a faith that never wavered. These qualities would later be mirrored in Joseph, his son, whose journey would echo his father's trials and triumphs in ways both heartbreaking and inspiring. Jacob's story also reminds us of the importance of family, not just as a unit of blood, but as a living network of dreams, struggles, and bonds. The love between father and children, even when tested by distance, deceit, or hardship, is a force that shapes generations. Jacob's careful guidance, his dreams, and even his mistakes all contributed to Joseph's journey, teaching us that life's lessons are often passed down in the most intricate ways. As the sun sets over Jacob's early years, we see a man who is more than clever, more than ambitious. We see a man who loved, who struggled, who hoped, and who prepared the path for something greater than himself. He carried dreams not just for his life, but for those who would follow, dreams that required patience, resilience, and faith. And so, my friend, this is where our story begins, with Jacob, a father, a dreamer, a man whose journey of overcoming had only just begun. The lessons he learned, the trials he faced, and the love he carried would all come together in ways he could not yet imagine. His life, filled with human emotions, challenges, and triumphs, sets the stage for the remarkable story of Joseph, his beloved son, whose journey will continue the legacy of faith, hope, and overcoming against all odds. Joseph was born into a family that already carried weighty promises. His father Jacob had endured trials, wrestled with life, and grown in wisdom. Joseph arrived like a spark of hope, a bright presence in a household filled with complex dynamics. He was young, curious, and full of life, a boy whose laughter could fill the home with warmth, whose eyes seemed to see more than the world around him. Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other children, a love that was clear and unmistakable. He saw in Joseph not just a son, but a continuation of his own dreams and the promises God had placed upon his family. To Jacob, Joseph was special. His heart, his character, and even his tender spirit seemed to radiate a sense of purpose. Yet, life has a way of testing even the purest of beginnings. Joseph's brothers, older and strong, noticed the affection their father showed him. They felt overlooked, a little shadowed by Joseph's light. In those early days, seeds of jealousy quietly began to grow. Sibling rivalry, a familiar human struggle, crept into their hearts. But for now, Joseph remained blissfully unaware, immersed in his world of wonder, play, and innocent dreams. Joseph's early childhood was marked by curiosity and a vivid imagination. He would often wander the fields, watching the skies, imagining stories in the clouds, and dreaming of a future that seemed bigger than his surroundings. These dreams were not idle fancies. They were glimpses of a life guided by something far greater than himself, a sense that his path was destined for impact, for purpose, for overcoming the ordinary. One day, Joseph had a dream, a vivid and strange vision that he could hardly contain. In his dream, he saw himself standing above his brothers, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowing down to him. It was a strange, almost unsettling dream, but Joseph, innocent and truthful, told his family about it. Jacob listened carefully, sensing that his son's dreams carried weight. He recognized the signs of destiny, the subtle guidance of God weaving through Joseph's life. But the brothers? They were puzzled, even angered. How could a younger brother imagine such a thing? Their jealousy quietly hardened into resentment, though Joseph remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around him. Despite the tension, Joseph's life was filled with lessons, small joys, and the loving guidance of his father. Jacob would often share stories of their ancestors, of promises, struggles, and triumphs. He would teach Joseph to look beyond immediate appearances, to have patience, and to trust in the unseen hand of God. These lessons became the foundation of Joseph's character, a blend of courage, faith, and wisdom that would carry him through the trials ahead. Joseph's innocence did not shield him from life's harsh realities, however. The family dynamics, the undercurrents of envy, and the complexities of love and favoritism were all quietly shaping his experiences. Joseph was a boy learning to navigate not only the world, but the delicate web of human emotions within his own household. He was learning, unknowingly, that even love can bring challenges, that attention can bring resentment, and that dreams, while beautiful, can sometimes spark conflict. Yet, through it all, Joseph remained steadfast in his natural goodness. He cared deeply for his family, helped when he could, and approached life with curiosity and hope. Even when faced with moments of misunderstanding or unspoken jealousy, his heart stayed open, his faith intact, and his imagination alive with visions of a greater future. It is remarkable to think about how childhood experiences shape the adults we become. In Joseph, we see the interplay of love, jealousy, hope, and guidance. We see how a father's nurturing can plant seeds of resilience, courage, and vision. Jacob's devotion, even when complicated by family tensions, gave Joseph a sense of security, a foundation from which he could face the storms ahead. Life's lessons often arrive disguised as challenges. For Joseph, his dreams were both a blessing and a source of friction. They marked him as different, special, and even a little mysterious to his brothers. Yet it was this difference, this unique spark, that would one day guide him through trials far beyond his childhood home. His visions of the future, seemingly fantastical in youth, would later become beacons of hope in times of darkness. Joseph's story as a child teaches us something universal, that dreams, love, and challenges often coexist. That being special, being chosen for something greater, can sometimes create tension, but it also creates the path for growth, resilience, and purpose. Even as a boy, Joseph was learning to hold on to faith, to trust in the unseen, and to remain grounded in love despite the complexities around him. As we watch Joseph grow, we also see Jacob, the father, observing, guiding, and nurturing. Their bond was more than affection. It was a connection rooted in destiny, faith, and hope. Jacob's love was unwavering, even when the family faced tensions and the world outside seemed uncertain. This bond would later prove to be a lifeline for Joseph, a source of courage, and a reminder that love can endure even the greatest trials. Friend, as we pause and reflect on Joseph's childhood, we notice the delicate balance of innocence and foresight, love and envy, guidance and challenge. These elements, though small in his early years, are the threads that weave the fabric of his story. Joseph's dreams, his father's love, and the subtle conflicts of family life are shaping a boy who will face unimaginable trials, yet rise with integrity, wisdom, and faith. The lessons of Joseph's early life are lessons for all of us. Nurture curiosity, hold on to dreams, cherish the love of those who guide you, and recognize that challenges often come before triumphs. Even in a household marked by tension, love can be a guiding light. Even in moments of misunderstanding, hope can take root. And even in childhood, the seeds of destiny can quietly begin to grow. As the sun sets on Joseph's early years, we see a boy full of wonder, a son dearly loved, and a family navigating the delicate balance of affection, jealousy, and dreams. Joseph's journey is only beginning, but the lessons learned in childhood, the courage to dream, the wisdom to navigate human complexities, and the strength to endure, will carry him far, preparing him for a life that will inspire generations. Joseph had always been special in his father's eyes. From the moment he was born, Jacob's heart had clung to him with a particular tenderness. As a boy, Joseph's innocence, curiosity, and dreams set him apart. Jacob's love was visible in small ways: extra attention, gentle guidance, and above all, a remarkable gift, a coat of many colors. This coat was not just a piece of clothing. To Joseph, it was a symbol of his father's affection, a visible reminder that he was cherished. To Jacob, it was a way of expressing love in a tangible form, a celebration of Joseph's unique spirit. But love, when displayed so openly, can sometimes stir feelings that are hard to control. Joseph's brothers watched with a mix of admiration and growing resentment. They were older, stronger, and yet they felt overshadowed by their father's favoritism. The coat, beautiful as it was, became a symbol of difference, a mark of something they did not have and could not easily attain. Their jealousy, once a small flicker in their hearts, began to burn. It clouded their thoughts and twisted their perspective. And then, there were Joseph's dreams. Even as a young boy, he saw visions that hinted at greatness, dreams that spoke of a future where he would rise above, a future that seemed unimaginable to his brothers. Joseph shared these dreams openly, unaware of the storm brewing in the hearts of those closest to him. "I saw the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowing down to me," he told them one day. To Joseph, it was a simple sharing of a vision, a glimpse of destiny that filled him with wonder. But to his brothers, It sounded like arrogance, like a claim to superiority that they could not accept. Their envy deepened, mingling with the sting of their father's favoritism. Life in the household grew tense. Small slights, unspoken words, and simmering anger began to shape relationships. Joseph, still young and innocent, could feel the coldness, but did not fully understand it. His brothers began plotting, whispering, and thinking of ways to remove the source of their discomfort. Jacob, meanwhile, remained unaware of the full depth of his son's feelings. His love for Joseph was genuine, protective, and unwavering. But it was a love that, without careful balance, unintentionally fueled jealousy. Parents often see this struggle, the difficulty of loving each child uniquely, while also maintaining harmony among them. Jacob's heart, though full of affection, could not shield Joseph from the growing tension. The coat itself became a symbol of both love and division. Joseph wore it proudly, unaware of the seeds of resentment it had planted. He could not have imagined that the gift meant to express care and affection would also become a catalyst for betrayal. And yet, even in this tension, Joseph's character was quietly developing. He was learning patience, resilience, and the strength to endure the complexities of family life. One day, the situation reached a breaking point. Joseph's brothers, unable to bear the favoritism and the dreams, hatched a plan. At first, it seemed like a small act, a confrontation, a warning, but it escalated into something far more serious. They seized him, cast him into a pit, and later sold him into slavery, sending him far from home. The betrayal was shocking, unimaginable to Joseph, and heartbreaking to Jacob. Jacob's grief was profound. He mourned for his son, believing him lost. The love of a father, the bond that had defined his life for so long, was tested in the most excruciating way. But within this tragedy, a greater story was unfolding. Joseph's journey was far from over. The dreams that once sparked jealousy would guide him through adversity, shape his character, and ultimately lead him to a destiny beyond what anyone could foresee. Even in the midst of betrayal, Joseph maintained a sense of hope. His innocence and faith carried him forward. The lessons of his childhood, the guidance of Jacob, the understanding of family complexities, and the early dreams of purpose became anchors in the storm. He learned that life may present heartbreak, that those closest to us may hurt us, and yet hope and resilience can endure. For Jacob, the pain of losing Joseph was a test of faith. He had loved deeply, guided carefully, and yet he was powerless to protect his son from the actions of others. In his grief, Jacob turned to God, seeking comfort, understanding, and the strength to endure. This period of sorrow deepened his character, teaching him that love is not only about holding close, but also about trusting even when we cannot see the full picture. The story of the coat of many colors reminds us of the delicate balance between love and favoritism. It teaches that love, though pure in intention, can have consequences when it is unevenly distributed. It shows how human emotions, envy, resentment, pride, can alter relationships, even within families that are meant to be close and nurturing. Yet, the story also shows the resilience of the human spirit. Joseph, though betrayed, carried within him the lessons of his father's love, the dreams that hinted at his future, and the strength to navigate the unknown. He was beginning a journey that would test every fiber of his being, but the foundation laid in childhood, love, faith, and courage would sustain him. In reflecting on this chapter, we see that life is rarely simple. Families, even those bound by love, can face challenges, misunderstandings, and conflict. Children, especially those marked by unique gifts or dreams, may encounter jealousy and opposition. But these experiences, as painful as they may be, also forge resilience, character, and a capacity for compassion. As we leave Joseph in this stage of life, we see a young man standing at the threshold of adversity. The coat of many colors, once a symbol of love, has become a catalyst for trials that will take him far from home. But even as he is cast into uncertainty, the threads of destiny are weaving a greater plan, a plan that will not only shape Joseph's life, but will also influence the generations that follow. Jacob's love, Joseph's dreams, and the tension with his brothers are more than a family story. They are a reflection of life itself. Love can bring joy and pain. Dreams can inspire and provoke. Challenges can break or build. And through it all, faith, courage, and resilience can guide us forward, even when the path seems impossible. Joseph's brothers, consumed by jealousy and resentment, had already plotted against him. What began as whispered complaints and small acts of envy escalated into a plan that would change the course of their family's history. They seized Joseph, bound him, and threw him into a pit, leaving him helpless and terrified. The sight of their brother, the boy they had grown up with, now at their mercy, should have brought hesitation, but jealousy had clouded their hearts. Eventually, they sold Joseph to a group of passing merchants, Midianite traders who were bound for Egypt. The young boy, innocent and trusting, was now leaving behind everything familiar: his home, his brothers, his father, and the life he had known. The journey from Canaan to Egypt was not just a physical passage, but a symbolic crossing, from safety to uncertainty, from family love to loneliness, and from childhood to the brink of adulthood. Back home, Jacob's grief was immediate and devastating. When he discovered that Joseph was missing, his heart shattered. His beloved son, the one he had nurtured, the one whose dreams filled his mind with hope, was gone. The depth of Jacob's pain was such that he could hardly eat, could hardly sleep, and could hardly bear the thought of life without Joseph. He mourned openly, his sorrow palpable, and yet he could not know the full extent of Joseph's fate. Meanwhile, Joseph found himself in Egypt, a stranger in a foreign land. The language, the culture, and the customs were unfamiliar. He was a young boy thrust into slavery, forced to navigate a world that was not only harsh, but indifferent. And yet, despite the fear, the loneliness, and the unknown, Joseph carried within him the lessons of his childhood, the guidance of his father, the strength of his faith, and the quiet confidence that his dreams were not meaningless. Joseph was sold to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, a man of influence in Egypt. Potiphar recognized something special in Joseph: the boy's intelligence, his integrity, and his ability to manage tasks efficiently. Soon, Joseph was entrusted with responsibilities, overseeing the household and managing affairs with care. It was a remarkable opportunity, one that allowed Joseph to demonstrate his abilities even in a place that was far from home and filled with uncertainty. Yet, Joseph's life in Egypt was not without challenges. As he worked in Potiphar's household, he faced jealousy from others, temptations, and the constant awareness that he was a foreigner, a slave in a land that did not know him. Each day tested his patience, his moral compass, and his resilience. But Joseph's character, shaped by the love and lessons of Jacob, carried him through. He remained honest, faithful, and diligent, trusting that God's plan for him was still unfolding. It is remarkable to consider Joseph's inner strength at such a young age. Most children, when faced with separation from family and thrust into a harsh environment, might succumb to fear or despair. Joseph, however, approached each challenge with courage, seeking to do what was right and making the most of every opportunity. His story reminds us that adversity, while painful, can become a training ground for resilience, wisdom, and character. Back in Canaan, Jacob's sorrow continued to weigh heavily on him. He mourned for Joseph as if he were lost forever. The father's love, so deeply invested, became a source of enduring pain. Yet, this period of grief also highlights the depth of human emotion, the way love can both uplift and wound, how attachment can create vulnerability, and how faith must often carry us through the most unbearable moments. Joseph's journey in Egypt also reveals the intricate interplay between human actions and divine purpose. His brother's jealousy led to betrayal, a seemingly tragic event. Yet, as Joseph adapted to life in a foreign land, his integrity and wisdom began to create opportunities. It is a reminder that even in the darkest circumstances, life can open doors to growth, influence, and destiny. Joseph's faith, patience, and dedication allowed him to rise above the limitations imposed by others. In Potiphar's household, Joseph proved himself as a capable and trustworthy steward. His diligence, honesty, and ability to manage responsibilities gained him respect and favor. He learned to navigate the complexities of authority, relationships, and work ethics in a foreign land, a preparation that would serve him in ways he could not yet imagine. These early challenges in Egypt were shaping Joseph into a leader, a problem solver, and a man whose character would eventually inspire and influence nations. Yet, life's trials are rarely simple. Joseph would soon face further tests, accusations, imprisonment, and periods of uncertainty that would challenge his faith and resilience even more. But the foundation laid during his childhood, the love of his father, and the lessons of integrity and faith he carried within him would guide him through these trials. Every hardship became a stepping stone, every challenge an opportunity for growth. Joseph's story in Egypt, while marked by separation and hardship, is also a story of hope, perseverance, and the quiet unfolding of destiny. He teaches us that even when life seems unfair, even when betrayal strikes, and even when we feel alone, maintaining integrity, faith, and resilience can lead to unexpected opportunities. The hardships we endure often prepare us for responsibilities and achievements far beyond what we initially imagine. Jacob's sorrow and Joseph's challenges are intertwined in this chapter. The father mourns, the son perseveres, and the threads of destiny continue to weave together, creating a narrative that transcends immediate pain. It is a story of endurance, of trust in a higher plan, and of the courage to rise above circumstances, no matter how difficult. As we reflect on this stage of Joseph's journey, we see the importance of character, faith, and resilience. Separation, betrayal, and challenges are part of life, but they do not define us. They refine us. Joseph's early experiences in Egypt set the stage for a future where his dreams, integrity, and wisdom would become instruments of hope and salvation for many, including his own family. Joseph had been sold into Potiphar's household, far from home and family, yet his spirit remained unbroken. The young man's faith in God and the lessons of his upbringing guided him through the unfamiliar and challenging environment. He worked diligently, demonstrating intelligence, honesty, and a commitment to excellence in all that he did. Potiphar, the officer of Pharaoh, noticed Joseph's abilities. He saw a young man who could be trusted with responsibilities beyond his years, someone whose judgment and integrity set him apart. Joseph was soon placed in charge of the household, overseeing servants, managing resources, and ensuring that the home ran smoothly. Even in a foreign land and as a slave, Joseph's diligence and moral character earned him favor and respect. But life, as it often does, tested Joseph further. Potiphar's wife noticed his loyalty, his appearance, and perhaps the natural magnetism that comes with purpose. She attempted to seduce him, to entice him into betraying the trust of his master. Joseph, steadfast and courageous, refused. His response was not born of fear alone, but from a deep moral conviction and his understanding of right and wrong. He knew that integrity mattered, even when it carried risk. This act of refusal, however, led to unforeseen consequences. False accusations were made against him, accusations that could have destroyed his life. Potiphar, believing his wife's words, imprisoned Joseph, throwing him into a dark, confined cell. It was a moment of despair, of injustice, yet Joseph's character did not falter. Even in prison, his faith remained strong, his heart hopeful, and his mind focused on serving well, despite the circumstances. In prison, Joseph's abilities and wisdom continued to shine. He organized, helped fellow prisoners, and even interpreted dreams, gaining a reputation for insight and fairness. Word of his talents reached those who had authority, and slowly, even in confinement, Joseph's life began to turn. It is remarkable how, even in the darkest circumstances, his integrity and diligence created opportunities for growth and recognition. Joseph's time in prison teaches us that adversity is not the end but often a preparation. The lessons of childhood, the nurturing love of Jacob, and the faith that sustained him from the very beginning became his anchors. Joseph understood that life's trials, though painful, could be stepping stones, shaping his character and preparing him for a destiny far greater than immediate circumstances suggested. Meanwhile, back in Canaan, Jacob continued to mourn for his lost son. He had no knowledge of Joseph's rise or the trials he faced in Egypt. The depth of Jacob's grief was profound, yet the love that had bonded him with Joseph remained alive, a thread connecting father and son across distance and hardship. This invisible bond is a reminder of how love can endure separation, sustaining hearts through uncertainty. Joseph's ability to rise above his situation reflects a universal truth. Circumstances do not define character, but choices do. In every challenge, he chose integrity, faith, and diligence. He refused to compromise his principles, even when it seemed easier to give in. His story reminds us that true strength is often revealed not in comfort and ease, but in the trials that test our deepest convictions. As Joseph navigated prison life, he also interpreted the dreams of fellow inmates, gaining recognition for his gift of understanding. Each dream he interpreted became a chance to serve, a chance to make a positive impact even while confined. This period in prison was not wasted. It was an incubation of skill, wisdom, and preparation for the larger responsibilities that awaited him. Every act of service, every careful decision, laid the groundwork for his eventual rise. Joseph's journey in Egypt also highlights the role of divine timing. The injustices he suffered were not permanent setbacks, but part of a larger plan. Through patience, faith, and unwavering commitment to what was right, Joseph's life trajectory was being aligned with destiny. The betrayal by his brothers, the false accusations, and the imprisonment, all were pieces of a complex puzzle leading to his ultimate purpose. It is important to note that Joseph's story is not just about personal triumph. It is about resilience, faith, and the power of character to influence the lives of others. Even in prison, his presence had an impact. He brought hope to those around him, order to chaos, and insight to those seeking understanding. Joseph's ability to serve others, even in hardship, is a lesson in humility, courage, and leadership. Jacob's continued grief and Joseph's growing wisdom in Egypt also reflect the intertwined destinies of father and son. Jacob's love shaped Joseph's early life, instilling values that would sustain him through trials. Joseph's journey, though lonely and challenging, would eventually bring blessing not only to himself, but to his family and to nations. The foundation laid by Jacob's care and the lessons of Joseph's youth became instruments of resilience and guidance in the face of adversity. Friend, as we reflect on this chapter, we see that life's trials often prepare us for extraordinary purposes. Joseph's rise in Egypt, his integrity in Potiphar's house, and his perseverance in prison reveal that adversity can be a crucible for character. Each hardship, each challenge, and each test of faith can be transformed into an opportunity to grow, serve, and prepare for the destiny that awaits. The story of Joseph's early years in Egypt teaches us valuable lessons. Maintain integrity even when it is difficult, trust in a higher plan even when circumstances seem unfair, and use every opportunity to serve and grow, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant. Faith, courage, and patience can guide us through the darkest periods, illuminating paths that were once hidden from view. As the chapter closes on Joseph's time in Potiphar's house and the early years of imprisonment, we see a young man shaped by love, faith, and resilience. The trials he faced did not define him, they refined him. And though the road ahead would still be long and filled with challenges, Joseph's character, wisdom, and unwavering trust in God positioned him for a remarkable journey that would not only reunite him with his family, but also save countless lives. Jacob had always loved Joseph more than his other sons. From the moment Joseph was born, he carried a special place in Jacob's heart. But now, with Joseph gone, that love transformed into a constant ache. Each day was shadowed by concern, each meal marred by absence, and each passing season a reminder that his beloved son was no longer by his side. The grief Jacob carried was profound. He mourned not just the absence of Joseph's presence, but the unknown. Where was his son? Was he safe? Was he suffering? Questions swirled endlessly in Jacob's mind, yet answers never came. Friends, neighbors, and even family tried to comfort him, but the depth of a father's longing cannot be easily soothed. It is a unique ache, a love stretched across distance and time, powerful enough to shape daily life and quiet moments alike. Jacob's sorrow was compounded by the knowledge of his other children's actions. Joseph's brothers had returned home with false stories of a wild animal attacking their sibling, leaving Jacob devastated and believing his son was lost forever. The weight of that grief settled heavily on his shoulders, aging him and leaving a persistent shadow over his days. And yet, even in despair, Jacob's love did not diminish. It endured. It remained steadfast, unwavering, and quietly full of hope. In those years of separation, Jacob's thoughts often returned to memories of Joseph's childhood. He remembered the boy's laughter, the sparkle in his eyes, the joy he brought to their home. He recalled the dreams Joseph had shared, dreams that had once seemed strange, but now held a kind of prophetic weight. Jacob cherished these memories, holding them close as both comfort and a reminder of what had been taken from him. The depth of Jacob's love is one of the most powerful themes in this story. It is a love that cannot be erased by distance, betrayal, or time. It is a love that motivates, sustains, and even transforms the one who carries it. Jacob's longing for Joseph was not passive sorrow. It was an active force, shaping his prayers, his decisions, and his daily life. He turned repeatedly to God, seeking guidance, protection, and the hope of reunion. Jacob's prayers were heartfelt and persistent. Each night, he lifted his heart, whispering to God for his son's safety and well-being. He did not know where Joseph was, who he was with, or what he was enduring, but he believed that God was present in the midst of uncertainty. This unwavering faith, even in despair, is one of the most inspiring aspects of Jacob's character. He teaches us that love and faith can coexist with grief, that hope can endure even when circumstances seem hopeless. At the same time, Jacob's longing shaped the family in other ways. His older sons observed his grief, and it reminded them of the weight of their actions. Though their jealousy had driven them to betray Joseph, Jacob's enduring love continued to influence the family dynamic, highlighting the power of patience, compassion, and forgiveness even when hearts are broken. Jacob also carried the burden of protecting the family legacy. He knew that the promises given to Abraham and Isaac were part of a larger plan, and that the family's journey was far from complete. Joseph's absence did not halt the unfolding of destiny. It only deepened Jacob's reliance on God and strengthened his resolve to guide and care for his remaining children. His life, though shadowed by grief, was filled with purpose. Even in the quietest moments, Jacob's love remained alive. He would walk alone, thinking of Joseph, remembering the boy's laughter, and imagining the day they would be reunited. Each thought, each memory, carried both sorrow and hope, a delicate balance that defined his days. It is a reminder that love is not passive. It is enduring, active, and capable of sustaining us through the most difficult seasons. Jacob's story during these years also highlights the human aspect of grief. He experienced sleepless nights, worry-filled days, and moments of despair. He questioned, feared, and mourned, but he never gave up on hope. This duality of grief and faith is profoundly human. It reminds us that love and loss often walk hand in hand, and that even in the most painful seasons, the heart can remain open, patient, and hopeful. Friend, Jacob's enduring love sets the stage for the eventual reunion with Joseph. It teaches us that separation, however painful, is not permanent when guided by faith and hope. It shows that a parent's heart, though tested and broken at times, can carry resilience, wisdom, and a vision for reconciliation and healing. During these years, Jacob's longing also inspired reflection and growth. He recalled the lessons of life, the promises of God, and the importance of guiding his family with care and patience. His grief, though though heavy, became a source of strength, preparing him for the day when Joseph would return and when forgiveness, love, and faith would finally intersect in a beautiful reunion. Jacob's journey of love and longing is a story for all of us. It is a story that honors the depth of human emotion, the way love can endure trials, sustain hope, and guide us even when life feels uncertain. It is a story that teaches patience, resilience, and the power of faith in the midst of hardship. As we pause and reflect on Jacob's years of separation, we see the quiet strength of a father's heart. Though Joseph was far away, the bond between father and son remained unbroken. Jacob's prayers, memories, and enduring love were a force that connected them across distance, sustaining hope and preparing the way for reunion. Jacob had always loved Joseph more than his other sons. From the moment Joseph was born, he carried a special place in Jacob's heart. But now, with Joseph gone, that love transformed into a constant ache. Each day was shadowed by concern, each meal marred by absence, and each passing season a reminder that his beloved son was no longer by his side. The grief Jacob carried was profound. He mourned not just the absence of Joseph's presence, but the unknown. Where was his son? Was he safe? Was he suffering? Questions swirled endlessly in Jacob's mind, yet answers never came. Friends, neighbors, and even family tried to comfort him, but the depth of a father's longing cannot be easily soothed. It is a unique ache, a love stretched across distance and time, powerful enough to shape daily life and quiet moments alike. Jacob's sorrow was compounded by the knowledge of his other children's actions. Joseph's brothers had returned home with false stories of a wild animal attacking their sibling, leaving Jacob devastated and believing his son was lost forever. The weight of that grief settled heavily on his shoulders, aging him and leaving a persistent shadow over his days. And yet, even in despair, Jacob's love did not diminish. It endured. It remained steadfast, unwavering, and quietly full of hope. In those years of separation, Jacob's thoughts often returned to memories of Joseph's childhood. He remembered the boy's laughter, the sparkle in his eyes, the joy he brought to their home. He recalled the dreams Joseph had shared, dreams that had once seemed strange, but now held a kind of prophetic weight. Jacob cherished these memories, holding them close as both comfort and a reminder of what had been taken from him. The depth of Jacob's love is one of the most powerful themes in this story. It is a love that cannot be erased by distance, betrayal, or time. It is a love that motivates, sustains, and even transforms the one who carries it. Jacob's longing for Joseph was not passive sorrow. It was an active force, shaping his prayers, his decisions, and his daily life. He turned repeatedly to God, seeking guidance, protection, and the hope of reunion. Jacob's prayers were heartfelt and persistent. Each night, he lifted his heart, whispering to God for his son's safety and well-being. He did not know where Joseph was, who he was with, or what he was enduring, but he believed that God was present in the midst of uncertainty. This unwavering faith, even in despair, is one of the most inspiring aspects of Jacob's character. He teaches us that love and faith can coexist with grief, that hope can endure even when circumstances seem hopeless. At the same time, Jacob's longing shaped the family in other ways. His older sons observed his grief, and it reminded them of the weight of their actions. Though their jealousy had driven them to betray Joseph, Jacob's enduring love continued to influence the family dynamic, highlighting the power of patience, compassion, and forgiveness even when hearts are broken. Jacob also carried the burden of protecting the family legacy. He knew that the promises given to Abraham and Isaac were part of a larger plan, and that the family's journey was far from complete. Joseph's absence did not halt the unfolding of destiny. It only deepened Jacob's reliance on God and strengthened his resolve to guide and care for his remaining children. His life, though shadowed by grief, was filled with purpose. Even in the quietest moments, Jacob's love remained alive. He would walk alone, thinking of Joseph, remembering the boy's laughter, and imagining the day they would be reunited. Each thought, Each memory carried both sorrow and hope, a delicate balance that defined his days. It is a reminder that love is not passive. It is enduring, active, and capable of sustaining us through the most difficult seasons. Jacob's story during these years also highlights the human aspect of grief. He experienced sleepless nights, worry-filled days, and moments of despair. He questioned, feared, and mourned, but he never gave up on hope. This duality of grief and faith is profoundly human. It reminds us that love and loss often walk hand in hand, and that even in the most painful seasons, the heart can remain open, patient, and hopeful. Friend, Jacob's enduring love sets the stage for the eventual reunion with Joseph. It teaches us that separation, however painful, is not permanent when guided by faith and hope. It shows that a parent's heart, though tested and broken at times, can carry resilience, wisdom, and a vision for reconciliation and healing. During these years, Jacob's longing also inspired reflection and growth. He recalled the lessons of life, the promises of God, and the importance of guiding his family with care and patience. His grief, though heavy, became a source of strength, preparing him for the day when Joseph would return and when forgiveness, love, and faith would finally intersect in a beautiful reunion. Jacob's journey of love and longing is a story for all of us. It is a story that honors the depth of human emotion, the way love can endure trials, sustain hope, and guide us even when life feels uncertain. It is a story that teaches patience, resilience, and the power of faith in the midst of hardship. As we pause and reflect on Jacob's years of separation, we see the quiet strength of a father's heart. Though Joseph was far away, the bond between father and son remained unbroken. Jacob's prayers, memories, and enduring love were a force that connected them across distance, sustaining hope and preparing the way for reunion. After years of separation, Joseph had risen to a position of immense power in Egypt. His wisdom, faith, and perseverance had carried him from a slave's life to becoming the trusted advisor of Pharaoh, responsible for managing the land's resources and guiding the nation through years of abundance and famine. Yet, despite all his achievements, Joseph never forgot his father, Jacob. The bond they shared remained unbroken in his heart, alive and strong, even across the miles and the trials of years. The famine that swept across the land eventually brought Joseph's brothers to Egypt, unaware that the man they would encounter was their own brother, the boy they had betrayed so long ago. They came to buy grain, driven by necessity, unaware of the profound reunion that was about to take place. Joseph, ever wise and cautious, recognized them immediately, yet he chose patience and careful planning over immediate confrontation. His heart had grown, tempered by trials, and he understood that forgiveness, not revenge, would guide this pivotal moment. When Joseph revealed his identity, the moment was electric with emotion. His brothers were stunned, overwhelmed by guilt, fear, and amazement. Could it truly be Joseph, the boy they had sold into slavery? And yet, Joseph's response was not anger or retribution. Instead, he embraced them with compassion and understanding, recognizing that the events of the past had been part of a larger plan. Joseph said to them, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." His words reflect a profound wisdom and faith, demonstrating that pain and betrayal, while real, can be transformed into opportunity, growth, and healing. Joseph had overcome resentment, and in doing so, he became a source of hope and restoration for his family. Meanwhile, Jacob waited anxiously, unaware of Joseph's fate. When he finally saw his son, his heart could hardly contain the flood of emotions: joy, relief, disbelief, and overwhelming gratitude. Years of worry, longing, and heartache melted away in an instant as father and son embraced. The moment was more than a reunion. It was a restoration of love, a healing of wounds, and a tangible reminder of the enduring power of faith and hope. The reunion also marked a profound act of forgiveness. Joseph did not dwell on the betrayal of his brothers, but instead focused on the bond they shared and the future they could build together. He understood that holding on to anger would only prolong pain. By choosing forgiveness, he freed not only his brothers, but also himself from the weight of resentment, showing that love and faith can triumph over even the deepest wounds. Jacob's joy was uncontainable. He saw in Joseph not just a son returned, but a testimony to faith, perseverance, and the enduring bond of family. Their embrace was more than physical. It was a reunion of hearts, a reconciliation of past mistakes, and a celebration of resilience. The years of separation, grief, and uncertainty were transformed into a moment of profound healing. The brothers, too, were deeply affected by the reunion. They faced their past actions and their guilt, yet Joseph's compassion allowed them to reconcile and move forward. This moment teaches us that forgiveness is a choice, often difficult, yet transformative. It is a recognition that while we cannot change the past, we can shape the future through understanding, empathy, and love. The reunion of Jacob and Joseph is also a testament to faith. Jacob's prayers, hope, and unwavering love had sustained him through years of uncertainty. Joseph's trust in God had guided him through slavery, betrayal, and imprisonment. Together, their journey demonstrates that faith can endure the harshest trials, and love can overcome the deepest wounds. This chapter of their story reminds us of the profound power of family. Despite mistakes, misunderstandings, and years of hardship, the bonds of love can survive. The human heart is capable of enduring grief, holding hope, and embracing forgiveness. Jacob and Joseph's reunion exemplifies how trust, compassion, and faith can rebuild what once seemed broken beyond repair. Friend, the beauty of this story lies not just in the happy ending, but in the journey itself. It shows that life is rarely simple. Pain, betrayal, and challenges are inevitable, but they do not have the final word. Love, patience, integrity, and faith can transform hardship into healing, anger into forgiveness, and separation into reunion. As Jacob and Joseph embraced, they also celebrated the restoration of family unity. Plans were made to bring the rest of the household to Egypt, ensuring safety, security, and a new beginning. The reunion became more than a personal reconciliation. It became a story of hope, resilience, and the enduring strength of family bonds across time and distance. Joseph's journey and his reunion with Jacob teaches us universal lessons. Life will bring hardships, betrayals, and separations. Dreams may be tested, and patience may be stretched. Yet, by holding onto integrity, faith, and love, we can navigate even the darkest paths and emerge stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. Forgiveness is not always easy, but it is the bridge that connects past pain to future joy. Jacob's enduring love, Joseph's resilience, and the compassionate reconciliation with his brothers create a narrative that inspires generations. It teaches us that no matter how long the separation, how deep the pain, or how heavy the betrayal, the bonds of love and faith can restore, heal, and transform lives. As the reunion chapter closes, we see father and son together again, hearts intertwined, dreams restored, and the family on the path toward unity and hope. Their story is a reminder that life's trials are not the end. They are the preparation for moments of extraordinary joy, reconciliation, and the fulfillment of promises. From the beginning, Jacob's love for Joseph was clear. He nurtured him, guided him, and cherished him above all others. This love, however, came with challenges. His favoritism unintentionally sparked jealousy in Joseph's brothers, leading to betrayal and separation. Here, we learn one of life's earliest lessons. Even love, when not balanced, can create tension. It reminds us to care deeply for those we love, but also to foster harmony, fairness, and understanding within our relationships. Joseph's journey began in innocence, surrounded by family, dreams, and hope. But life soon tested him in unimaginable ways. Sold into slavery, betrayed by those he trusted, and separated from his father, Joseph could have easily succumbed to despair. Instead, he demonstrated resilience, a quiet strength born from faith, values instilled by his father, and an unwavering belief in a greater purpose. His story teaches us that adversity, while painful, can also be a forge for character. The trials we face often prepare us for the blessings and responsibilities ahead. Throughout his life in Egypt, Joseph maintained integrity and wisdom. In Potiphar's household, he refused to compromise his morals even when temptation arose. In prison, he served faithfully and interpreted dreams for fellow inmates. Every trial became a stepping stone, a chance to grow stronger, wiser, and more capable of fulfilling his destiny. His life shows us the power of perseverance and the importance of holding onto our principles, even when the world seems unfair or indifferent. Jacob's years of grief, longing, and prayers also teach profound lessons. As a father, he endured heartache, uncertainty, and sorrow over the loss of his beloved son. Yet his love remained steadfast. Even without knowing Joseph's fate, he maintained hope, prayed, and guided his family with care. His story reminds us that love is enduring. True love persists across distance, hardship, and misunderstanding, and it often carries us through the darkest moments. The reunion of Jacob and Joseph is perhaps the most powerful lesson of all. Years of separation, pain, and betrayal were replaced by joy, forgiveness, and restored relationships. Joseph chose compassion over revenge, understanding over anger, and love over resentment. His forgiveness healed not only his brothers but also himself, showing us that letting go of bitterness can transform lives. It teaches us that even when others wrong us, we have the power to choose grace and restore relationships. Another important lesson is the role of faith in navigating life's uncertainties. Joseph's dreams, guided by God's purpose, sustained him through slavery, betrayal, and imprisonment. Jacob's faith, expressed through prayer and hope, sustained him through loss and worry. Together, they demonstrate that faith is a lifeline, a source of strength, patience, and perspective that allows us to see beyond immediate challenges and trust in a greater plan. Family, as we see in this story, is both complex and sacred. It can bring joy, tension, love, and conflict all at once. Jacob and Joseph's story teaches us that maintaining bonds requires patience, understanding, and sometimes forgiveness. It reminds us to cherish those we love, to nurture relationships even when they are tested, and to recognize that love has the power to endure trials that seem insurmountable. Joseph's journey also emphasizes that destiny often unfolds through hardship. Every challenge he faced, the betrayal by his brothers, the slavery, the imprisonment, was not random. Each trial was a preparation for a larger purpose, saving countless lives during famine, reconciling with his family, and fulfilling God's plan. This teaches us patience. Life may not always follow the path we expect, but perseverance, integrity, and faith can guide us toward the purpose we are meant to fulfill. Friend, one of the most inspiring aspects of this story is the balance of human emotion and divine purpose. Jacob's grief, Joseph's struggles, the jealousy of his brothers, and the ultimate reconciliation. All of these moments are deeply human. They resonate with our own experiences of love, jealousy, betrayal, and forgiveness. At the same time, the story reminds us that a higher purpose guides life's events. Even pain and setbacks can serve as instruments for growth, wisdom, and the fulfillment of a larger destiny. The story also highlights the importance of hope. Despite years of separation, Joseph and Jacob were reunited. Despite betrayal, forgiveness and reconciliation were possible. Despite hardship, dreams were realized. Their journey reminds us that hope is a powerful force. It carries us through despair, fuels perseverance, and allows us to see light even in the darkest circumstances. As we close the series, we can reflect on the timeless lessons Jacob and Joseph offer. Faith sustains, trust in a greater purpose even when circumstances seem unfair. Resilience matters. Challenges refine character and prepare us for greater responsibilities. Love endures. Genuine love can persist across distance, hardship, and conflict. Forgiveness heals. Letting go of bitterness restores relationships and brings inner peace. Hope transforms. Belief in a brighter future can guide us through the most difficult seasons. Jacob and Joseph's journey is more than a story from the past. It is a mirror for our own lives. Their experiences encourage us to face trials with courage, to love deeply, to forgive sincerely, and to hold on to hope. They remind us that even in adversity, life's challenges can lead to extraordinary growth, fulfillment, and reunion.